The email glowed on Marcus Kane's phone like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. He stood in his downtown loft, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased a city he'd helped reshape with his architectural vision, and read the words for the fourth time. Each pass carved them deeper into his chest. Marcus, I'm done pretending. Dimitri and I are leaving for Milan tonight. The partnership proposal, the waterfront development. It was never about us. I needed the designs, and you were foolish enough to trust me. Don't try to contact me. Vivienne, have you ever trusted the wrong person? Given everything to someone who saw you as nothing more than a stepping stone? Marcus Kane had spent 6 years building a life with Vivienne Laurent, the captivating art curator with razor-sharp cheekbones and even sharper ambition. He'd left his wife for her, walked away from a 15-year marriage to the woman who'd believed in him when he was sketching buildings on coffee-stained napkins in diners that smelled like grease and broken dreams. And now, in 112 characters, Vivienne had reduced 6 years to what it always was, a con. But here's what nobody expected. Not Marcus, not the business world watching his empire crumble, not the gossip columns feasting on his downfall. What his ex-wife did when she found out. It changed everything, not just for Marcus, but for everyone watching this story unfold. And if you stick with me through this journey, I promise you'll see betrayal, redemption, and grace in ways you never imagined. So hit that subscribe button right now, because this story will challenge everything you think you know about second chances and what it really means to find your way back from rock bottom. Marcus's second phone buzzed. His business partner, Leonard. The preview of the text was enough. Emergency board meeting, 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Waterfront Commission went to Dimitri. They have your designs, exact copies. This is bad, Marcus. His hand tightened around the phone until his knuckles went white. The Waterfront project. 18 months of his life poured into those plans. A sustainable mixed-use development that would transform 3 miles of decaying industrial waterfront into a thriving community. Green spaces, affordable housing integrated with market-rate units, solar arrays and rainwater collection systems, pedestrian bridges connecting neighborhoods that had been divided for generations. It wasn't just a building. It was a vision for how cities could heal themselves. He'd shared every iteration with Vivienne, valued her input on public spaces, on how people would move through the structures he designed. She'd attended client meetings, sat in on conference calls with engineers and city planners. He'd given her access to his studio, his files, his vision, because he trusted her, because he loved her, because he was a fool. Dmitri Volkov. The name tasted like copper in his mouth. A rival architect who'd built his reputation on aggressive tactics and designs that prioritized spectacle over substance. Dmitri didn't create buildings. He created monuments to ego. And now he had Marcus's vision, his sustainable waterfront that would actually serve people instead of just impressing them. Dmitri would gut the affordable housing, maximize the luxury units, turn the community gardens into private courtyards. Everything Marcus had designed to heal would become another scar. The worst part? The part that hollowed him out and left him standing in this expensive loft feeling like a shell? He'd done this to himself. 6 years ago, Marcus had sat across from Nora in their small kitchen. The kitchen where they'd planned their future over cheap wine and cheaper pasta, where she'd encouraged him through every rejection, every failed proposal, every client who chose someone else's vision. Nora, with her steady brown eyes that saw through every pretense, every moment of doubt he tried to hide. Nora, who worked double shifts as a community advocate so he could take on projects that mattered more than they paid. I need more, he'd told her. I've outgrown this, outgrown us. The look on her face. God, that look would haunt him until his last breath. You're making a mistake, Marcus, she'd said quietly, but I won't be here when you realize it. She'd been right. She was always right. But by the time Marcus figured that out, Nora had moved on, remarried, built a new life with someone who deserved her. His phone rang. Leonard again. Marcus answered. Tell me you have a plan, Leonard said without preamble. Tell me you documented everything. Tell me we can prove Dmitri stole those designs. Marcus walked to the window. Below, the city pulsed with light and movement. Millions of people living their lives, most of them never thinking about the structures that contained their dreams and struggles. That's what he'd loved about architecture once. the quiet power of shaping spaces where life happened. I gave Vivian access to everything, Marcus said. His voice sounded strange, hollow. She had keys to the studio, passwords to the shared drive. There's no evidence of theft because I handed her everything voluntarily. Silence stretched between them. The board is going to crucify you, Leonard finally said. You know that. I know. Marcus, we've been partners for 12 years. I've watched you build this firm from nothing. But this? Bringing someone with no clearance into confidential meetings? Sharing proprietary designs? The liability alone could sink us. I'll resign, Marcus said. Effective immediately. The firm doesn't need my mistakes destroying what we built. Don't make any decisions tonight, Leonard said, his voice softening. We'll figure this out. Just get some sleep. But sleep didn't come. Marcus stood at the window until the sky shifted from black to gray, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, Nora was starting her day, making coffee in a kitchen she shared with Gabriel Reeves, the environmental engineering professor she'd married 3 years ago, going to work at the community development nonprofit where she advocated for people who couldn't advocate for themselves, living the life of purpose she'd always wanted. The life Marcus had promised to build with her before he convinced himself he deserved better. His phone lit up with news alerts. The architecture blogs had the story. Dmitry Volkov's firm awarded major waterfront development. Sources confirmed designs nearly identical to proposal submitted by Kane and Associates. Questions of corporate espionage under investigation. By 8:30 a.m., Marcus's phone was exploding. Reporters, colleagues, clients suddenly concerned about their own projects. He ignored them all and drove to the firm's downtown offices, the building he'd designed himself 7 years ago. All glass and clean lines, meant to represent transparency and vision. The irony wasn't lost on him. The conference room fell silent when Marcus entered. 15 faces turned toward him. The board of Kane and Associates, the people who'd invested in his vision, his reputation, his name. Margaret Chen, the CFO, sat at the head of the table, her expression carved from ice. Leonard sat to her right, his discomfort obvious. Richard Delacourt, the firm's COO, wouldn't meet Marcus's eyes. Rain started hitting the windows. Appropriate, Marcus thought. Let's begin, Margaret said. Her voice could have frozen water. Marcus, I assume you've seen the news about the Waterfront Commission. I have. The commission represented 30% of our projected revenue for the next 3 years, Margaret continued. Dmitry Volkov's firm submitted designs that are, according to our legal team's preliminary review, virtually identical to the proposal you prepared. They were awarded the contract 2 weeks before our scheduled presentation. Marcus nodded. There was nothing to say. Our attorneys have advised that proving intellectual property theft will be extremely difficult. She slid a folder across the table. Vivienne Laurent had unrestricted access to your studio for approximately 18 months. She attended confidential client meetings. You discussed sensitive project details with her in semi-public settings. Multiple witnesses place her in this building after hours with your explicit permission. Have you ever had to sit in a room and face the consequences of your own stupidity? Had to watch people who trusted you realize you betrayed that trust? If you have, drop a comment below. Share your story, because what I'm about to tell you might help you understand you're not alone. That rock bottom isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something you can't see yet. I take full responsibility, Marcus said. Every decision to include Vivienne in confidential matters was mine. The firm's exposure is my fault. Responsibility is a start, Margaret said, but it doesn't address the larger issue. Your judgment, Marcus. This isn't just about an affair or a bad relationship. This is about fundamental failures in protecting client interests and firm assets. Richard finally spoke up. The client list is spooked. We've had 3 calls this morning asking about document security. 2 are requesting reassignment to different senior architects. I understand, Marcus said. Do you? Margaret's composure cracked slightly. Do you understand that the firm bearing your name is now a liability? That clients are questioning whether their proprietary information is safe with us? Yes. Then you'll understand our decision. The board met via emergency session at 7 this morning. We're asking you to step down as senior partner effective immediately. Leonard will assume your responsibilities while we conduct a full review of protocols and potential damages. The words hit like a physical blow, but Marcus had been expecting them. Still, hearing it made real. 20 years of work. The firm he'd built from a one-room office and a dream. Gone. How long? He asked. Indefinitely, Margaret replied. Minimum 6 months. We'll revisit based on findings from the investigation and client response. Marcus stood. His legs felt unstable, but he kept his spine straight. I'll have my office cleared by end of day. That won't be necessary, Margaret said. Take whatever time you need for personal items, but we'll need your access credentials, company devices, and building keys before you leave today. Stripping away his identity, that's what this was. For 2 decades, Marcus Kane had been Kane & Associates, the visionary architect transforming urban landscapes, the man who could see potential in abandoned spaces and forgotten neighborhoods. Now he was just a man who'd been stupid enough to trust the wrong person. He handed over his laptop, his phone, his key card. The small plastic rectangle that had opened every door in this building felt heavier than it should. Leonard walked him to the elevator. I voted against this, Leonard said quietly. For what it's worth. You shouldn't have, Marcus replied. This is the right call. What will you do? Marcus pushed the elevator button. I have no idea. The ride down felt longer than it should. Marcus watched the floor numbers decrease, each one marking another level of descent. When the doors opened to the lobby, his assistant Jules was waiting. I heard, Jules said. Their eyes were red. This isn't fair, Mr. Kane. It's exactly fair, Marcus said. I did this to myself. Jules held out a small bag. Your personal items from your desk. I thought you might not want to come back up. Thank you, Jules. There's something else, Jules said. Mrs. Chin called about an hour ago. Nora, she said she heard what happened through the professional network. She wanted to make sure you were okay. Marcus's heart stopped, started again, stuttered. Did she leave a number? No. She just asked me to tell you she was thinking of you. 5 words. She was thinking of you. After 6 years of silence, after the divorce he'd demanded, after the way he'd ended their marriage, telling her he needed someone who matched his success, someone who could keep up with the life he was building. After all of that, Nora heard he was in trouble and reached out. Tell her thank you, Marcus said. If she calls again, I will. Marcus walked out of the building he'd designed, past the reception desk where his awards used to be displayed, through the lobby where clients once waited eagerly to meet with the visionary Marcus Kane. The rain had intensified. He stood on the sidewalk letting it soak through his expensive suit, hoping it might wash away some of the shame. It didn't. His car sat in the executive parking space that was no longer his. Tomorrow, someone else would park there. Someone else would take client meetings and present designs and build the firm's reputation. The firm that still carried his name, but no longer wanted his presence. Marcus sat in the driver's seat, rain drumming on the roof. He pulled out his personal phone, the one the firm hadn't claimed, opened a browser, hesitated, then typed Nora Chen Reeves into the search bar. Her nonprofit's website appeared first. Community Voices Advocacy. Their mission statement made his chest ache. Amplifying the needs of underserved communities, connecting people with resources, fighting for dignity and justice in urban development. That was Nora, always had been. While Marcus chased prestigious commissions and wealthy clients, Nora had stayed focused on people who needed help, people who lived in neighborhoods that developers ignored or actively destroyed. She'd wanted him to use his talent for them, for communities that couldn't afford star architects but deserved beautiful, functional spaces just as much as anyone. He'd told her that wouldn't pay the bills, that he had to establish himself first with high-profile projects. Later, he'd promised, later we'll do the meaningful work. But later never came. Success became its own addiction. Each prestigious project led to another. Each award made him hungrier for the next, until Vivian walked into his life at a gallery opening, all sharp beauty and sophisticated charm, and whispered that he deserved someone as successful as he was, someone who wouldn't hold him back. The next link was a news article from 8 months ago. Local nonprofit leader marries university professor. The photo showed Nora and Gabriel on their wedding day. Gabriel Reeves was tall, distinguished, with silver threading through dark hair. He looked at Nora like she was the only person in the world. And Nora, God. Nora looked happy, really, genuinely happy in a way Marcus couldn't remember her looking in the last years of their marriage. Another article from 3 months ago. Reeves announces $50 million donation for Children's Hospital wing. Marcus read it twice, then a third time. The Children's Hospital, Nora's dream. Her mother had died of cancer when Nora was 12, in a children's ward that was overcrowded and underfunded. Nora had wanted to build something better, a place where sick kids could feel less scared, where families wouldn't have to choose between staying with their child and going to work because there wasn't enough space for parents to remain overnight. She'd talked about it constantly in their marriage, sketched ideas on napkins, researched funding models. Marcus had always agreed. Someday, he'd said, when we have enough. But somehow enough never came. There was always another project, another opportunity, another reason to wait. Gabriel hadn't waited. Gabriel had written a check for $50 million to build Nora's dream. The new wing would be named after her mother. Construction was starting next month. Marcus closed his eyes, felt the full weight of everything he'd lost. Not just Nora, not just their marriage, but the chance to be the person who helped her realize her dreams. The chance to use his architectural skills for something that mattered to her. Gabriel had given Nora what Marcus never had. Not just money, but priority, action, the message that her dreams mattered enough to make real. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Kane, this is Gabriel Reeves, Nora's husband. I hope you don't mind Jules gave me your number. I'd like to speak with you about a project opportunity. Would you be available to meet tomorrow afternoon? The University Faculty Club, 2 p.m. Marcus stared at the message. Read it again. Gabriel Reeves wanted to meet him. To discuss a project? That made no sense, unless this was some kind of revenge, some way to humiliate Marcus further. But that didn't seem like Nora's style. And from everything Marcus had read about Gabriel, the man had more integrity than most people Marcus knew. He typed back, "I'll be there. Thank you." The response came quickly. "See you then." Marcus sat in his car as the rain eventually stopped, as the sky shifted from gray to a watery sunlight that felt apologetic. No idea what Gabriel wanted or why, but for the first time since reading Vivian's email, Marcus felt something other than crushing regret. He felt curious, maybe even hopeful. Tomorrow, he'd find out why the man who'd married his ex-wife wanted to meet, why Nora had called to check on him, why, after everything Marcus had done, these people were reaching out instead of watching him burn from a comfortable distance. But tonight, he drove to Riverside Park, the place where he and Nora used to sketch and dream when they were just two kids who believed architecture could change the world. The bench where they'd planned their future was still there, weathered now and covered with carved initials that weren't theirs. Marcus sat and watched the river flow past. Constant, indifferent, cleansing. Somewhere in this city, Nora was finishing her day, maybe making dinner with Gabriel, maybe talking about the hospital wing, maybe not thinking about Marcus at all. And somehow, that was okay. More than okay. Because for the first time in 6 years, Marcus was being forced to figure out who he was when he wasn't chasing success or status or the next big thing. Who he was when he'd lost everything he thought defined him. He had no idea what he'd find. But sitting there by the river, watching the water catch the last of the daylight, Marcus made himself a promise. Whatever happened next, whoever he became on the other side of this disaster, he wouldn't make the same mistakes. He wouldn't sacrifice people for projects. He wouldn't confuse success with meaning. It was a start, maybe not much of one, but it was something. And right now, something was more than he deserved. The University Faculty Club was nothing like the upscale restaurants where Marcus usually took meetings. It was comfortable rather than impressive. Worn leather chairs, bookshelves lining the walls, the smell of coffee and old paper. Gabriel was already there when Marcus arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a view of the campus quad. "Thank you for coming," Gabriel said, standing to shake Marcus's hand. His grip was firm but not aggressive. "Please, sit." Marcus slid into the booth across from him. "I'll admit, I'm surprised by your invitation." "I imagine you are." Gabriel signaled a server, ordered coffee for both of them. "I wanted to meet you before you saw Nora, to have an honest conversation about why I'm reaching out and what I'm asking." The directness was refreshing. Marcus appreciated it. "I'm leading an initiative through the university's engineering department," Gabriel continued. "Sustainable housing for low-income families. We've secured funding through a combination of grants and private donations. 40 units in the North Side District to start, with potential for expansion if the model works. That sounds ambitious. It is. Gabriel leaned back. But it's necessary work. The Northside community has been neglected for decades. Families are paying exorbitant rent for substandard housing. Children don't have safe, outdoor space. The buildings are energy inefficient, which drives up costs for people who can least afford it. Marcus nodded. He knew the Northside District, had driven through it countless times, never stopped. We need an architect, Gabriel said. Someone who understands sustainable design, but also understands community. Someone who can create spaces that honor dignity instead of advertising poverty. Nora suggested you. The words hung in the air between them. Why would she do that? Marcus finally asked. After how I ended things, after the choices I made. Gabriel was quiet for a moment. The server brought coffee. Gabriel added cream, stirred slowly, because Nora believes in people's capacity to grow, to change. She said you used to design with purpose, that you believed architecture should serve people, not just aesthetics or profit. She thinks that person is still in there somewhere. Marcus's throat tightened. I don't know if that's true. Neither do I, Gabriel said bluntly. But I'm willing to find out. This project matters too much to let personal history interfere. If you're the right architect for this work, I want you involved. If you're not, I need to know that now. The honesty was startling, and somehow it made Marcus want to be equally honest. I've made terrible choices, Marcus said. I threw away my marriage for someone who was using me. I compromised my firm's integrity because my ego needed validation. I designed buildings to impress people instead of serve them. I don't know if I remember how to be the person Nora thinks she remembers. That's a good start, Gabriel said. What is? Acknowledging it. Being honest about where you are. Gabriel drank his coffee. I'm not offering you this out of charity or pity. I'm offering it because the Northside community deserves the best I can give them. If that's you, excellent. If it's not, we'll find someone else. What does Nora think about this? She's cautious, Gabriel admitted. She wants to believe you've changed, but she's also protective of herself, of what we've built together. She made it clear that her involvement is contingent on boundaries. Professional boundaries. I understand, Marcus said, and I respect that. I'm not here to disrupt your marriage or win Nora back. I'm here because I need purpose. I need to do work that matters. Gabriel studied him for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Then he nodded. All right. There's a community consultation session tomorrow afternoon. Northside Recreation Center. 3 p.m. The residents want to be involved in the planning process. They want architects who'll listen to their needs instead of imposing some vision on them. Can you do that? Yes. Nora will be there, Gabriel added. She's been working with the community for the past year, building trust, understanding what they need. She'll be leading the consultation. Can you handle that? Seeing her, working with her, maintaining professional distance. I can, Marcus said. I have to. Gabriel reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Site surveys. Demographics, initial needs assessments. Read these tonight. Come tomorrow prepared to listen more than you talk. Marcus took the folder. Thank you for the opportunity, for trusting me when you have no reason to. I'm not trusting you yet, Gabriel corrected gently. I'm giving you a chance to earn trust. There's a difference. Fair enough. They stood, shook hands again. One more thing, Gabriel said. Nora is the most remarkable person I've ever known. Kind, passionate, committed to making the world better. I love her deeply. I know, Marcus said quietly. I can see that in how you look at her, how you've supported her dreams. Good. Gabriel's voice was still gentle, but had an edge of steel. Because if you hurt her again, professionally or personally, you'll have me to deal with. And I protect what I love. I wouldn't expect anything less. Marcus left the faculty club and spent the rest of the day and most of the night reading the materials Gabriel had given him. The Northside District demographics were sobering. Median household income well below the poverty line. Single mothers working multiple jobs. Elderly residents on fixed incomes choosing between medication and rent. Children with asthma rates 3 times the city average, likely due to mold and poor air quality in aging buildings. The site survey showed potential. an abandoned lot that once held a factory, good bones, access to public transportation, near a school and a small park. With the right design, this could be transformative. Marcus started sketching, not the flashy renderings he usually produced for clients, just simple pencil drawings, exploring ideas. What if the courtyard was central instead of peripheral? What if they incorporated raised garden beds accessible to elderly residents? What if the children's play area had shade structures and seating so parents could supervise while also resting? He worked until his hand cramped, until the stack of sketches covered his dining table, until the sky started lightening with dawn. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt the same passion he'd felt as a young architecture student. The belief that the right design could genuinely improve lives. The Northside Recreation Center was exactly what Marcus expected. Linoleum floors, fluorescent lights, folding tables with coffee in styrofoam cups and store-bought cookies. Families filled the plastic chairs. Mothers with toddlers on their laps, elderly residents, teenagers who looked skeptical of yet another promise from outsiders who didn't live in their neighborhood. And there at the front, speaking with a woman in a wheelchair, was Nora. She'd changed. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a practical braid. She wore jeans and a soft green sweater instead of the business casual he remembered. But her eyes, those steady brown eyes that had always seen through his pretenses, those were exactly the same. She looked up, saw him. For a moment, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or something more complicated. Then she excused herself from her conversation and walked over. "Marcus," she said. Her voice was neutral. "Careful, Nora." All his rehearsed words evaporated. "Thank you. Testing me for this project. I didn't suggest you for you," she said quietly. "I suggested you for them." She gestured to the families filling the room. "They deserve the architect you used to be. The one who believed design could change lives. The one who believed design could change lives." Past tense. The distinction hurt because it was accurate. "I want to be that person again," Marcus said. "Then prove it," Nora replied. "Listen to these families. Actually hear what they need. Design for them, not for awards or recognition or your portfolio." "I will." Gabriel appeared beside them carrying rolled-up site plans. His hand naturally found Nora's shoulder, a casual gesture of intimacy that spoke of comfort and trust. Marcus felt the loss like a physical ache, but also something else. Acceptance. Even gratitude that Nora had found someone who treated her the way she deserved. "Should we start?" Gabriel asked. Nora nodded. She walked to the front of the room, raised her hands for attention. The conversation gradually quieted. "Thank you all for coming," Nora said. Her voice carried warmth and respect. "You've heard promises before from people who don't live here, who don't understand your lives. I'm asking you to give this process one more chance, to share your needs honestly, to help us design housing that actually serves you. If you've ever felt invisible, drop a comment and let me know." Because what happened next in that recreation center was about making invisible people seen, about architecture as an act of justice. And if that matters to you, hit that like button. Let's keep going. Nora introduced Marcus and Gabriel, explained the project scope: 40 units of sustainable housing, affordable rent tied to income, energy-efficient design to keep utility costs low, community input driving every decision. Then she opened the floor. An elderly woman raised her hand. "Mrs. Patterson," Nora said warmly. "Please." "I have arthritis," Mrs. Patterson said. "Bad in my knees and hands. I can't do stairs anymore. And the doorknobs in my apartment now, I can barely turn them some mornings." Marcus pulled out his sketchbook, started taking notes. Accessibility features, lever handles instead of knobs, first floor units, grab bars, wide doorways. A young mother spoke next. Her toddler squirmed on her lap. "I work 2 jobs. I'm never home. My daughter is with my mama, but mama's getting older. We need a place where it's safe for kids to play, where I can see them from the window, where neighbors know each other and watch out for each other's children." Marcus sketched a central courtyard, sight lines from multiple units, benches for elderly residents to sit and supervise. A design that fostered community instead of isolation. A teenage boy stood. He looked uncomfortable being the center of attention, We don't have anywhere that's ours, you know. The park has little kid stuff. The street has nothing. We just hang around, and people call the cops on us for existing." Marcus nodded. Teen-appropriate spaces, basketball hoop maybe, seating areas, somewhere they could gather that was designed for them, not as an afterthought. For 2 hours Marcus listened, really listened. He filled pages with notes and quick sketches, not imposing his vision, but absorbing theirs, understanding their lives, their struggles, their dreams for something better. Nora watched from the back. Their eyes met occasionally. In those moments, Marcus saw not judgment, but something like cautious hope. After the formal session ended, residents gathered around Marcus's table. He showed them his rough sketches, asked questions, incorporated their feedback in real time. This wasn't the polished presentation he usually gave. This was collaboration, co-creation, the kind of work he'd believed in once upon a time. Mrs. Patterson studied a sketch of a courtyard garden with raised beds. "You really think we could grow vegetables here?" "Absolutely," Marcus said. "Raised beds are easier on your joints. We could orient them for maximum sun, maybe include a small greenhouse for extending the growing season." Her eyes filled with tears. "I used to garden before my knees got bad. I miss it." "Then we'll make sure you can garden again," Marcus promised. As family slowly left, Marcus found himself alone with Nora and Gabriel, helping fold up chairs. "That was good work today," Gabriel said. "The community responded to your approach." "I'd forgotten what this felt like," Marcus admitted. "Designing for impact instead of accolades. It's easy to lose sight of purpose," Nora said, stacking chairs. "The architecture world rewards ego and spectacle over service." "Is that why you left the field?" Marcus asked. "I heard you're doing advocacy work now instead of design." Nora paused. "Partly, but also because after our divorce, I needed to rediscover who I was outside of our partnership. We'd been together so long, our identities were tangled. I needed my own path." "And did you find it?" Marcus asked quietly. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Yes, this work, helping communities advocate for their needs, connecting them with resources and professionals who actually listen. This fulfills me in ways drafting buildings never quite did." "Though she still sketches sometimes," Gabriel said with obvious affection. "I've seen the notebooks. Just for fun," Nora said, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Old habits." Gabriel excused himself to take a phone call, stepped outside, left Marcus and Nora in a silence that felt less awkward than contemplative. "Thank you," Marcus finally said, "for this opportunity, for seeing something in me worth salvaging." "Everyone deserves a chance at redemption," Nora replied. "But Marcus, this can't be about earning my forgiveness or recapturing what we had. That door is closed. I understand. Do you?" She turned to face him fully. "Because I see how you look at me, and I need you to understand that I've moved forward. Gabriel and I have built something real. I won't jeopardize that. I would never ask you to," Marcus said. "Gabriel is a good man, the kind of man you deserved all along." Nora's expression shifted. Something like sadness crossed her features. "You were a good man too, Marcus. You just forgot it for a while." The words settled over him. Not absolution, not quite forgiveness, but something more valuable. A recognition that he'd been lost, not fundamentally broken. That the person he used to be might still be accessible. Gabriel returned. Nora's hand automatically reached for his. Another gesture of casual intimacy that spoke of deep partnership. "The community board wants to schedule a follow-up in 2 weeks, Gabriel said. "Can you have some preliminary concepts ready by then?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I'll incorporate everything we heard today." "Good." Gabriel looked between Marcus and Nora. This could be really meaningful work. For all of us. As they walked to the parking lot together, Marcus felt something unfamiliar. Not the hollow ambition that had driven him for years. Not the desperate need for recognition. Something quieter, more sustainable. Purpose. Over the following weeks, Marcus threw himself into the North Side project with an intensity he hadn't felt in years. He met with residents individually, sat in Mrs. Patterson's cramped apartment, and saw firsthand the accessibility challenges she faced. Walked through the neighborhood with the teenage boys, understanding what they needed in a gathering space. Talked with young mothers about childcare logistics and safety concerns. The designs that emerged were unlike anything in his portfolio. Not flashy, not trying to impress anyone, just thoughtful, human-centered spaces that prioritize dignity and function. He incorporated sustainable features not as trendy additions, but as cost-saving measures that would keep utility bills manageable for families living paycheck to paycheck. His professional reputation remained complicated. The investigation into the stolen designs was ongoing. Vivienne and Dimitri had vanished to Milan as promised, making legal action difficult. The architecture community was divided. Some saw Marcus as a victim, others as negligent at best, complicit at worst. But Marcus found he cared less about professional gossip with each passing day. The work itself was satisfaction enough. The sketches covering his drafting table represented lives that would be improved, families who'd have safe, affordable, beautiful homes. That mattered more than any award. Leonard called one afternoon. "The board wants to discuss your reinstatement." Already, Marcus had expected the review to take longer. "They've concluded you showed poor judgment but not malicious intent," Leonard said. "The stolen designs weren't your fault, even if the access that enabled the theft was. They're willing to bring you back with conditions, oversight, transparency requirements, probationary period. What do you think I should do?" Leonard was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I think you should consider whether you want to come back. You're different lately, more like the Marcus the first partnered with. The one who cared about impact over income. If you come back, the pressure to chase prestigious projects will return. Can you maintain this new focus?" It was a fair question. Marcus looked around his home studio, the North Side designs, sketches for the potential expansion sites Gabriel had mentioned. This work felt meaningful in a way corporate architecture never had. "I want to continue the community housing work," Marcus said. "If the board will let me do that alongside firm projects, I'll come back. If not, I'll stay independent. I'll present that to them," Leonard said. "But Marcus, I'm proud of you. The work you're doing matters." After the call, Marcus returned to his drafting table. He was refining the courtyard design, trying to balance children's play needs with elderly residents' desire for quiet social spaces. When his phone rang, Gabriel's name appeared. "Can you meet me?" Gabriel asked. His voice sounded strained. "There's something I need to discuss." "Of course. When?" "Now, if possible." "The coffee shop near campus?" Marcus arrived in 20 minutes. Found Gabriel at the same corner booth where they'd first met. But Gabriel looked different, tired, older, like he was carrying a weight that was crushing him. "Thank you for coming," Gabriel said. He had a folder in front of him. Medical reports. Marcus would learn. "I need to tell you something, and I need to know I can trust you to handle it with integrity." Marcus sat down, concern rising. "Of course, whatever you need." Gabriel pulled out a document. His hands trembled slightly. "I have a degenerative neurological condition. Early onset. Progressive. The neurologist gives me 3 to 5 years before I lose significant cognitive function. Maybe 7 if the treatments work better than expected." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "My God. Does Nora know?" "I'm telling her this weekend." Gabriel's voice cracked slightly. "I've been putting it off, hoping for better news from the specialists. But there isn't any." "I'm so sorry," Marcus said. Completely inadequate words for an impossible situation. "I'm telling you because I need to know what kind of man you are now," Gabriel continued. "Not the man who left his wife for someone who betrayed him. Not even the man doing good work on the housing project. I need to know who you are at your core." "Why?" "Because Nora will need people she can depend on." Gabriel met his eyes. "Because watching someone you love slowly disappear is the cruelest thing I can imagine putting her through. Because despite her best efforts to hide it, I know part of her still loves you. Not the you who broke her heart, but the you who dreamed with her, who saw the world the way she does." "Gabriel, I would never—" "Let me finish," Gabriel interrupted gently. "I love my wife. These past 4 years with her have been the best of my life. But I'm realistic about what's coming. The confusion, the personality changes. The day I won't recognize her anymore. She'll need support, friendship, people who remember who she is when I can't. You're asking me to be there for her. I'm asking if you're capable of being her friend without wanting more," Gabriel said. If you can support her through what's coming, without using her vulnerability to try to reclaim what you lost. The question hung between them. Marcus understood the weight of it. Gabriel was offering trust Marcus hadn't earned, asking him to prove he'd changed in the most difficult way possible. The man I was 6 years ago couldn't have done that, Marcus said honestly. He would have seen it as an opportunity, a second chance. But I hope I've changed. I hope I've learned that love isn't about possession. It's about wanting someone's happiness, even when you're not part of it. Gabriel studied him for a long moment. I want to believe that. So do I, Marcus admitted. All I can do is prove it through my actions. They sat in silence, two men connected by their love for the same woman, facing an uncertain and painful future. How can I help? Marcus finally asked, not with Nora, but with you. The project, the university work. What do you need? I need to finish what I've started, Gabriel said. The housing initiative is just phase 1. There are 3 more sites identified, communities that need the same thoughtful development. I need to know those projects will continue after I can't lead them anymore. I'll make sure they do, Marcus promised. Whatever you've started, I'll see it through. Not for Nora, Gabriel pressed. For the communities themselves. For the communities, Marcus agreed. And because it's the work I should have been doing all along. Gabriel nodded. Some of the tension left his shoulders. Thank you. When Nora learned of Gabriel's diagnosis, she called Marcus, not because she needed him specifically, but because Gabriel had suggested it, had told her about their conversation, his assessment that Marcus could be trusted. They met at Riverside Park, on the same weathered bench where Marcus had sat months ago contemplating his failures. Full circle. Nora's eyes were red from crying, but she sat with quiet strength. Gabriel thinks highly of you, she said without preamble. He believes you've changed. I'm trying to, Marcus said. Every day. He wants to know you'll continue the housing work. All of it. Not just the current project. I will. I promise you, Nora. I'll see his vision through. She nodded, then was quiet for a long moment. I'm scared of losing him slowly, of watching him fade, of being alone again. Every instinct screamed at Marcus to reach for her, to offer comfort, to close the distance between them. But he remained still, giving her space to feel without making it about his desires. You won't be alone, he said instead. You have friends, community, people who love you. And while I can't be what I once was to you, I can be someone you trust, someone who'll keep showing up, no questions asked. Can you really do that? She asked, her voice small. Be just a friend when I know how you feel. My feelings aren't your burden to carry, Marcus said. Yes, I love you. I probably always will. But I also love the person I'm becoming when I focus on doing the right thing instead of wanting what I can't have. Being your friend, supporting you and Gabriel through this. That's the right thing. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know how to do this. One day at a time, Marcus said. That's all any of us can do. The months that followed tested Marcus in ways he'd never anticipated. He watched Nora and Gabriel navigate the cruel progression of his illness. The good days when Gabriel's mind was sharp and he could contribute meaningfully to the housing projects. The hard days when confusion clouded his thoughts and frustration brought him to tears. Marcus kept his promise. He led community meetings, refined designs based on feedback, secured additional funding for expansion sites. He also showed up for the small things, helped Gabriel organize his research papers before his memory became unreliable, joined them for quiet dinners when Gabriel felt up to company, present without inserting himself where he didn't belong. He and Nora developed a careful friendship, bounded by clear lines and mutual respect for Gabriel. They worked well together on the housing initiatives, their old professional rhythm returning but without romantic entanglement. One evening, nearly a year after Gabriel's diagnosis, Marcus was working late in his studio when his phone rang. Nora's name appeared. Can you come? Her voice was strained. Gabriel's having a bad episode. He doesn't recognize me, and I don't know what to do. Marcus arrived in 20 minutes, found Gabriel in the living room, agitated and confused. Nora keeping a careful distance, her face streaked with tears. Who are you? Gabriel demanded when he saw Marcus. Why are all these people in my house? I'm Marcus, he said calmly, using techniques the neurologist had recommended. I'm a friend. We work on community housing projects together. Something in Gabriel's face shifted, recognition flickering. The architect, the sustainable housing. That's right, Marcus confirmed. We were reviewing plans for the West Side development. Do you remember? Gabriel's agitation slowly subsided as Marcus engaged him in conversation about the work, about design principles and community needs. Gradually, clarity returned to his eyes, and with it, the crushing awareness of what had just happened. I didn't know her, Gabriel whispered, looking at Nora with devastation. I looked at my wife and didn't know her. Nora moved to him then, taking his hands. It's okay. I'm here. We're okay. This is what's coming, Gabriel said, his voice breaking. More of this, worse than this, until one day I don't come back. But not today, Nora said firmly. Today you're here. Today you know me. That's enough. Marcus quietly prepared to leave, but Gabriel stopped him. Thank you for coming, for helping her when I couldn't. Any time, Marcus said, and meant it. In the parking lot, Marcus sat in his car for a long moment. Loving someone, he realized, wasn't about grand gestures or passionate declarations. It was about showing up, about being the person someone could count on, even when, especially when, it cost you something. He drove home to his studio, to the drafting table covered with plans for community spaces that would outlive all of them, to the work that had become his redemption and purpose. And for the first time since Vivian's betrayal had upended his life, Marcus felt something approaching peace. Not because he'd gotten what he wanted, but because he'd become someone worthy of Nora's trust, someone Gabriel could rely on, someone contributing something meaningful to the world. The following spring, the first housing development held its ribbon-cutting ceremony. Gabriel was there in his wheelchair, his speech slightly slurred, but his pride evident as he watched families move into homes designed with dignity and care. Nora stood beside him, one hand on his shoulder. Marcus gave the official remarks, but he made sure to credit Gabriel's vision, to acknowledge the community members who'd shaped every decision, to recognize Nora's advocacy work that had made it all possible. Afterward, a little girl approached Marcus shyly, her mother's hand tight in hers. Is this really ours? She asked, looking up at the bright, accessible building with wonder. It's really yours, Marcus confirmed, kneeling to her level. What do you think? I think it's beautiful, she said. It feels like home. Those simple words meant more than any architecture award ever had. As the celebration continued, Marcus found a quiet moment with Gabriel, whose lucidity came and went now like tides. You did good work here, Gabriel said, his words slightly slurred, but his meaning clear. This is what architecture should be. It's your vision, Marcus said. I'm just helping build it. No, Gabriel disagreed. You made it better, brought things I couldn't see. He paused, struggling for words. Take care of her, when I can't anymore. Not like before, just be there. I will, Marcus promised. I am, Gabriel nodded, satisfied. Then his attention drifted to where Nora was speaking with residents. Even in his confusion, even as his mind betrayed him, the love in his expression when he looked at her was unmistakable. Marcus understood then that he would never have what Gabriel and Nora shared, but he could honor it. He could be the friend who remembered Gabriel's vision and kept it alive. He could be the person Nora trusted when the hard days came. And somehow, that was enough. 6 months later, on a gray autumn morning, Marcus received the call he'd been expecting, but dreading. Gabriel had passed peacefully in his sleep, Nora beside him. Marcus helped with arrangements, coordinated with university colleagues, ensured Gabriel's research would continue. At the memorial service, he listened to tributes from students and community members whose lives Gabriel had touched. When it was his turn to speak, Marcus talked about integrity, about a man who, even facing his own decline, had thought first of others, about the legacy of community-centered work that would continue. Gabriel taught me that real strength isn't about protecting what's yours, Marcus said. It's about building something bigger than yourself, something that serves people who need it. He lived that principle until his last breath. Afterward, in the quiet of Nora's home, surrounded by friends bringing casseroles and condolences, Marcus helped organize the flood of flowers and cards. Thank you, Nora said softly, for keeping your promise to him. for being exactly what he thought you could be. He made it easy, Marcus said. He was a better man than I ever was. You're both good men, Nora replied. Just different. And Marcus, I need you to know what you did this past year and a half, showing up without expectations, supporting us both. That meant everything. It was an honor, Marcus said honestly. What will you do now? She asked. With the housing projects? Continue them, Marcus said. There are 2 more sites in development. The community board wants to expand to other neighborhoods. If you're still willing to work on the advocacy side, I'd like to keep our partnership going. Gabriel would want that. Nora said. What do you want? Marcus pressed gently. She was quiet for a moment, considering. I want to honor his work. And honestly, I've valued working with you again. The new you, I mean. The one who listens and serves instead of chasing recognition. Then we'll continue, Marcus said. As colleagues, as friends. As friends, she agreed. And there was both finality and possibility in the words. 3 years later, Marcus stood in his studio, reviewing plans for the 7th community housing development, inspired by Gabriel's initial vision. The projects had garnered national attention, not for architectural flash, but for genuine community impact. Other cities were adopting the model. A light knock interrupted his concentration. Nora stood in the doorway, holding 2 coffees from the cafe they'd frequented during their original partnership years ago. Thought you might need this, she said, offering him a cup. Late night? Trying to solve a drainage issue on the East Side site, Marcus said, accepting the coffee gratefully. The environmental constraints are tricky. Nora moved to the table, studying the plans with a practiced eye. What if you terrace this section? Create bioswales that handle the runoff and give residents garden spaces? Marcus looked where she pointed, seeing immediately how the solution addressed multiple needs. That's brilliant. How do you still see these things? I sketched buildings with you for 15 years, she reminded him with a slight smile. Some instincts stick. They worked together for an hour, the old rhythm returning as they refined the design. Comfortable, collaborative, marked by mutual respect and shared purpose. When they finished, Nora gathered her things, but paused at the door. Marcus, there's something I need to say. Something I should have said earlier. He waited, uncertain, these past 3 years. Watching you honor Gabriel's vision, seeing how you've grown. You've become the person I always believed you could be, the person who got lost for a while in ambition and ego. I had good teachers, Marcus said. You and Gabriel both showed me what matters. I'm grateful our paths crossed again, Nora continued, even through such difficult circumstances. I'm grateful we found our way to this friendship. So am I, Marcus said, and meant it completely. She smiled, then left, her footsteps echoing in the stairwell. Marcus returned to his drafting table, to the work that had become his purpose and redemption. Outside his window, the city lights glowed against the darkness. Not the view from a penthouse, but something better, something earned through failure and growth, and the slow, difficult work of becoming someone worthy of trust. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the betrayal that shattered his ego, the humiliation that forced him to face his failures, the unexpected grace offered by the woman he'd wronged and the man who'd loved her better than he had. Marcus had lost the prestigious firm, the recognition, the woman he'd thought he wanted, but he'd found something more valuable: purpose, integrity, the satisfaction of work that mattered, and friendship with Nora. Not the romance he'd once imagined reclaiming, but something perhaps more precious: genuine connection built on mutual respect, shared values, hard-won trust. It wasn't the ending he'd expected when Vivian's betrayal had demolished his comfortable life, but it was better than anything he could have designed himself. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, covering the city in fresh whiteness. Marcus smiled and returned to his work, sketching spaces where families would build their lives, where children would play, where community would flourish. This was enough. This was everything. So here's what I need you to understand. What Marcus Kane learned through loss and pain and slow transformation: success isn't what you accumulate, it's who you become. Redemption isn't a moment, it's consistent action over time. Love isn't possession, it's wanting someone's happiness, even when you're not part of it. Marcus never got Nora back, but he became someone worthy of her respect. And sometimes, That's the real happy ending. Not getting what you wanted, but becoming who you needed to be. If this story moved you, if it challenged you to think differently about success and failure and second chances, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment about your own journey of transformation, because your story matters too. Your growth matters. Your possibility for change matters. And remember, rock bottom isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something you can't see yet. Something better than you could design yourself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.